interstitial. And that is what happens in one here. There is free shift from the, if I good you mentioned it, I need to explain this. There is a, let me start with it. You know we have different from the interstitial. And that is why the interstitial. And that is why the area will swell up. The body area will swell up. It means that there is now free shift from the intravascular body electrolytes. And if there is not taken, if there is no intervention of time, body plasma can also shift. Please, are you listening to what I'm saying? Yes. So there is an intravascular movement of fluid and electrolytes into the interstitial space. That's why you see, if there was a particular year in Nigeria, I was called I used to work with an insurance company. I was called to see a patient in one private hospital. The owner is late now. And the doctor and the nurse there, I don't understand what they are doing. They have severe burn. And for more than 12 hours, they left the patient on the couch. They are taking anything. Because the patient is still talking. But the area, the body is already big, swell up. And when I go, they say, hey, Jesus Christ. Because they don't have the knowledge that the more you delay, fluid is shifting. They're shifting from the intravascular into the interstitial. And in the interstitial, there will be swelling up. All this place is already swelled up with fluid. But because the patient is still talking, everything is still okay. I said this patient, I have to tell you to transfer that patient from that hospital into the teaching hospital. I know the teaching hospital in Nigeria. If there is more than 25% born or severe born, if you don't bring the patient on time, you won't take the patient again. The knowledge is that there will have been more of a free shift from the intravascular to the interstitial, and therefore the survival rate is lower. The rate of survival will be lower because there have been so much free shift. We will get there. One of the earlier things we do is to do what? Is to replace the fluid. So the patient with bone injury is going to die faster, not because of the wound, but because of what? The loss of fluid. And that is why taking care of the wound is not the first priority. What's the first priority? Fluid replacement. Am I communicating? Fluid replacement is the first what? Priority, because there is continuous shifting of fluid from the intravascular to the interstitial. And if there is not a thing, when fluid and electrolyte shifted to a level, body plasma will begin to do what? To shift. And I tell you, when plasma begins to shift, that is a complicated case. So in that hospital, once you don't bring the patient within 8 hours of the bone injury, they said they will not take it again. Because to give them more stress, because the chances of survival is getting lower. Am I communicating? Yes. Do you understand what we are talking about? Oh. Question. Okay. Is it anyway, if you take all my time, anyway, please, what's the question? We will get there. We'll get the fluid. What's your question? We have the type of fluid, colloid and crystalloid. Anyway, you have to see the cat before the horse. We will get there. But to answer your question, both crystalloids and colloids will be needed. It depends on what has shifted, the extent. Let me just answer your question. Generally, we give crystalloid, which is a lactated ring gas. Lactated ring gas, ringer lactate. That's an example of a crystalloid. Okay, because it has different components of electrolytes. Okay, and it's also closer to the concentrations of the normal body fluid. But by the time fluid has shifted, if care is not taken, plasma has also begun to shift. And you will not only give crystalloid, you will also give colloid. Am I communicating? Next slide. So management of all injury. People already started talking about management. We said we have 3 phases or 4. If you want to add first aid, if you want to add first aid, it will be 4. 3 hospital phase. These are hospital phase. That is emergent phase, acute phase, and what? Rehabilitation phase. I'm not going to waste time here because I will emphasize more of fluid replacement. Next slide. So, emergent phase. When does the emergent phase start? You know, if you say we add first phase to first aid, that will make it how many phase? 4. So, when does the emergent phase start? Can you read for us?
From onset of injury to completion of fluid resuscitation.
Full stop. The emergent phase starts from where? When the injury occurs, the onset of injury, when will it end? When you replace the fluid that we lost. The emergent phase does not end when the patient is in the hospital. You know, when the patient gets to the hospital, what's the first thing we are going to do? If we're in exams, we ask you, what's the first thing we are going to do? Okay, let me give you a question. Claudine, a 30 years old girl, newly married 30 years old girl, was in the kitchen trying to fry plantain and matoke. Suddenly sustained 35-degree burn. Suddenly sustained 35-degree burn with inhalational injury. I was rushed to Waba teaching hospital on assessments, respiration, 40 cycles per minute. Pulse. Are you following me? Pulse, 100 beats per minute. Yes. Oxygen saturation, 85. So, in order of priority, determine the initial intervention. You know, I'm a good examiner. See, I've just constructed exam questions. So, what will be your first priority?
Administer oxygen. Oxygen isavuze 85. Nta mwuka afite kandi agomba kuza hejuru ya 90.
In any emergency case, the first in priority is establishing respiration. So in this case, fluid replacement will be number what? Priority. Number 2. But if I give you another question and the patient does not have a respiratory compromise, no problem with the respiration. Because already I told you respiration is 40 cycles per minute. That is a patient already gasping. That is a very too fast respiration. Forget fluid replacement first. You need to establish respiration. But let's assume there is no problem with respiration. The next thing is to do what? Let's assume there is bleeding. After respiration, the issue of fluid. If bleeding is in this case now, you arrest bleeding. Because bleeding can also lead to hypothalamic shock. Okay? So after respiration, if there is bleeding, resolve it. If there is no bleeding, quickly fluid replacement. Have I mentioned about management of wound? That is not the first priority. Eh? So that's all we do. So please, okay, read it. I think there are important points. Fast read.
The emergency phase is the first phase of burn injury. It begins at the onset of injury and continues for about 48 hours.
So let me say something here. We said the emergent phase begins at the onset of injury and continue 48 hours. Meaning that ideally, the patient has like 48 hours grace if it's going to live. So fluid replacement should be done as quick within how many hours? Highest, in my language, we say open tube. You don't wait for 48 hours. You will see when we get to how we replace fluid. We replace fluid first 8 hours. First 8 hours, then the next 24 hours. Fluid replacement should be done within 8 to 24 hours. You must replace all the lost fluid. If patient is going to survive. Okay, this period.
This is the period of time required to resolve the immediate life-threatening problems resulting from the burn injury. It begins immediately at the time of injury and ends with the restoration of
capillary permeability. That is, you are replacing the fluid shift. Because I told you fluid will shift from intravascular to interstitial. Am I complicated? When you taught fluid and electrolyte, I think I'm the one that taught you that. I would have told you the different shifting of fluid. But you know, I won't come and teach you everything. Okay.
The main goal of this
I think I'll be teaching a class fluid and electrolyte. Oh, it's master students. The main goal
of this phase is to prevent hypoglycemic shock and preserve vital organ function. This phase includes the hospital care and
emergency room. The next slide. So priority of the emergency phase. These are the priority. First aid, prevention of shock, prevention of respiratory distress, detection and treatment of concomitant injuries. There are so many other injuries apart from the additional injury. That could be injury depending on the type of burn. That could be injury to the heart, injury to the chest. Okay, that could be psychological trauma. Are you getting what I'm saying? Okay. Wound assessment and initial care. So there are certain things you will need to do before you begin to manage the wound. Am I communicating? Next slide. I won't take care. I'll talk about first aid. Next slide. You go and read about it. All these ones, I've told you use blankets, rod. I've mentioned them somehow. When I was talking about the courses, don't let us waste time. If you want me to give you the slides, should I give you some kind of awareness slides? I know you asked me. Will you ask me or you ask me? Next slide. Next slide. You can read all of these on your own. General management. Okay, let's talk about general management. What you can read is as a good thing. I just found today. Then give it on Mpita. Next slide. I'll talk about these two. These are criteria for admission. into intensive burn care injury. That's why I was saying maybe burn injury is not a common problem in Rwanda, because do you have intensive care in the hospital? Intensive care in the hospital. You have intensive care generally. In some hospital in Nigeria, I think in South Africa, they have intensive care for burn injury alone. I have an hospital, there's an hospital when I was doing my PhD, because I work with patients that has burn, that has wounds. In fact, most of my study, I used to study patients with wounds. If you go more life, put my name. You see that most of my studies are about trauma, wound. Okay? There is an hospital in Lagos that have a separate intensive care to manage patients with burn injury. Okay? So there is a requirement, so patient can be in the OPD. They will now determine should we transfer to burn center. They call it burn center. Some people have burn center or burn injury intensive care. So these are the criteria that we determine. Okay, so you can take time to look at it. Okay, next slide. Next slide. So these are collaborative. I have told you different people will need to come together to manage burn injury. So these are the, when all those multiplarity come, these are the things you will consider in managing. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. All of this you can read on your own. Next slide. Next slide. Anyway, I'll talk about airway. If the patient has problem with airway, you must establish respiration first. If it's difficult, you will transfer the patient to what? Intensive care unit. And they will do intubation. Have you seen where they do intubation? Anyway, if you have you been to theater where they do intubation? But you have seen a patient on intubation. Maybe what they use now. Not oropharynx. There is a catheter. They will pass through either through the nasal or the mouth, down to the pharynx and to the larynx. I'm trying to remember the name. Usually cough like this. It will have a bulb at the edge. Endotrachea tube. They will insert the endotracheal tube, and the patient will be placed under mechanical ventilator. Am I complicating? Have you seen mechanical ventilator before? You've never seen mechanical ventilator. So there is a machine that breathes for patients. It has 4 modes, depending on the severity of the patient's respiration. There are 4 modes. So it is called mechanical ventilator. The patient will be in intensive care unit. Okay? Next slide. What we are saying here is that the patient will be under mechanical ventilator. They will continue to monitor until he's able to breathe on his own. Then they will now wean. They will wean the patient out of the mechanical ventilator. But you need to continue managing the ABG, that is arterial blood gas. The normal arterial blood gas should be around 95 to 100. Okay? 95 to 100. Next slide. Next slide. I don't talk about this. Okay, intravenous fluid replacement. We need to emphasize this. Okay, let's emphasize this. Even though we started talking and I've asked questions about fluid to be replaced. Read. Infusion, let us see the title.
Infusion of intravenous fluids is needed to maintain sufficient blood pressure for normal.
Sufficient what?
Blood volume.
Rude. se yasomye
You
ibyashura
don't know how to do not follow.
numvise avuga broad
yoza bivuga
broad ubwo ni arterial broad girl
Client with band involving
arterial broad gross
required IC as soon as patient arrives at the health care facility, at least one unusual blood intravenous IV access route must be obtained. It is critical to establish IV access.
At least at this stage, you can administer intravenous fluid. Okay, some of you can even pass catheter, cannula. You can pass catheter. You can administer intravenous fluid. Okay? Next slide.
The type of plasmid is recognized by size and depth of bone. Age of patient and individual considerations such as hydration in the rebound state or existing chronic ailments. Fluid replacement is accomplished with crystalline solution
Crystalloid solution. Usually what?
lactated liquor.
So for patient with bone, the typical, the gold standard type of fluid we give is what? Ringas lactate, lactated ringas. No any other fluid. Because ringas lactate, I will give you an assignment. Read about components of ringas lactate. Everybody write it down. Read about the components or constituents of ringas lactate. So it's ringas lactate that contain all the normal constituents of the body compartment that have been lost. So we need to replace all the fluid lost with what? With ringas lactate. Okay? So it's a crystalline solution. So the typical crystalline solution we will use for fluid replacement is the lactated ringas. Please remember, don't go and give any other fluid. It's ringas lactate. Thank you. Then we also give colloids. Example of colloids: albumin, plasma expander. These are fluids. They are blood products. They are blood solution. Okay? Sometimes if there is no blood, or the patient, they can give some of these blood solution, albumin, plasma expander. Especially if there has been serious fluid shift, and it is being noticed also there is also shift of albumin, shift of protein. It will not be only crystalloid. I've answered your question now. It will not be only crystalloid fluid replacement. You may also need to give what? Albumin. Okay? Like the plasma expander. Or combination with anything. Oh, last point.
The last point, the projected fluid replacement for the first 24 hours are calculated by irrigation based on the extent of the body system. Adequate fluid suspension results in slight decreases blood volume
Anyway, let's go to the next slide. Yes, we have got to where we are going. Everybody knows this anywhere. Now, if you are already sleeping, wake up. Look at me, looking on Jesus, the author and the finisher. Complete it. Where is our mistress? Ask from Mrs. Where is she? If you know scripture, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher. You don't know the Bible? Oh, I don't know piano. I only know. I know Joby, which is 1,000. Natano. I thought I knew it was not Natano, Maganatano. What is Maganatano? 500. What is 800? Maganatano. What is 8,000? That's Tano there. You know, there's Tano in the bank. I was told there's Tano, something Tano, 8,000. Oh, Munani. I also have Munani. What is Munani? But someone told me it's 8,000. Munani. I heard it says 8,000. So who is right? Munani.
Umutanga. Umutanga. 80 is Umutanga.
I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying. I know midway later. And I know Imakuro. Okay, I know Amakuru Mesa. Amakuru Mesa. And I know Amanzi is water. And I know Uriro. Uriro is hospital. Clap for me. Have I not tried? Nigeria has more than 400 languages. More than 400. So I only know my own language. That would be, if myself and this guy is a Nigerian, we may not understand each other. Except it's my own tribe. We have more than 400 languages. So I can only speak in my own language, which is Yoruba. So I'm a Yoruba man. Yorubas are the people of Western Nigeria, Southwestern Nigeria. So you see Yoruba in Nigeria, in Togo, in the Republic of Benin, in Ivory Coast, in Jamaica, in Brazil. That's where you see the Yorubas. So I'm a Yoruba person. I speak Yoruba. Okay, so that's just I just use all this for you to wake up. That's the strategies in teaching. Now let's calculate how do we replace fleet. Now we have established the fact that we must replace fleet. Why must we replace fleet? In a patient with hand. Why must we replace fleet? The answer is there is a free shift already from the intravascular to the interstitial. And in order to prevent complication, you need to replace the fluid within 8 to 24 hours. Are you writing what I'm saying or you are doing something else? So now, do you just, we listen to me. We also have no fluid we are going to use. Which fluid are we going to use to replace? You can understand? Which fluid? What do you call it? Ringer's lactate. That's what you are going to use to replace. It doesn't matter, you may not use some other fluid like normal saline. But for replacement, for the urgent replacement of fluid, you need to replace with what? Now, the question now is, how much of these fluids are we going to replace? So for us to know the fluid we are going to replace, we need to calculate it. And that is where we are now. So how do we calculate? So we have different formula. Yeah, I'll show you like three. I know the one that most people use most. The one my lecturer used to emphasize, which is the factor. I'm going to emphasize factor too. In Nigeria, when I teach, I do emphasize consensus. But don't worry, I'm going to emphasize background. Now, consensus formula. Really, how do we come to consensus? What from the English word consensus? Consensus is about agreement, isn't it? So some people say that since you are using different formula, let's come halfway. Let's agree. According to a formula we can now use. That's how we come across the consensus formula. So if you are using consensus formula, so it will be lactated ringer solution 2 to 4 mil. So we have calculation to do here. Once I emphasize this, the other part of the slides, I will not waste time. So 2 to 4 mil of ringers lactate. Instead of ringers lactate. So multiply by kilogram body weight and multiply by total body surface area. That is what? That is what? It's almost. Backward is 4 straight away. It's like that. Yes. This one is that's why you get consensus. They are giving range. You can use 2, you can use 3. But backward is strictly 4. 4. You use 4. Seriously for backward. In Nigeria, when we teach, most people use 2. But you can use 3, you can use 4. Okay? But usually for most of my students, if I give them they are using consensus formula, then usually most times is lower case 2. Okay? If you want to use 4, you better say you are using backward. If you want to use 4. But if you are using consensus, just use 2. So if you are using consensus, so if you use 2, so it will now be 2 multiplied. You calculate the weight of the patient. They will probably have given you the weight in exam. Then you now calculate the total body surface area. You probably have been given the total body surface area. And if you are not given, you will do what? You calculate it. Then so when you calculate, you will give half of the fluid in the first 8 hours. Don't worry, you calculate. I want us to use Kaplan because in Gapo we use Kaplan to calculate everything. We use Kaplan in Gapo to calculate. We use Kaplan in Gapo. So we use Kaplan, but it's not so different.
But they should know all the formulas.
And yeah, they will know. Here, you know consensus 2 to 4. But you tell us you are using consensus formula. There is no more, there is no upgrade. They are almost similar.
It depends with your hospital policy.
Hospital
Some
policy.
hospitals, seriously, I know the internal hospital was allowing that consensus.
We use consensus.
Most of the hospitals we use the factor formula is way out hospitals.
But it's now, it's very close now. 2 mil, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you give half. The first 8 hours you give half of the fluid calculated. Then the remaining half you spread it over the next 16 hours. If you like, you can give 1/4 the next 8 hours, 1/4. Then another 1/4 in the next 8 hours, make it 16 hours. But know that the half of the fluid must be given the first 8 hours. The remaining half, you spread it across the next 16 hours, make it 24 hours. Is that clear? If you are using Buchanan formula, that is mostly if there is a serious weight and you also want to replace the colloid. You want to give albumin, you want to give all those plasma expander. Then you will now, it will be 0.5 multiplied by the weight of the patient and multiplied by the TBS pump straight away. It's very simple. If it is electrolytes you want to give, you want to replace it. 1.5 multiplied by all of them is about the number multiplied by the weight and the total body surface area that is done. So for day one, that if you are giving pollen, you give half first 8 hours, then the remaining over the next 16 hours. Okay? That is for crystalloid. Then day two also, you give half of colloid, half of electrolyte, and all of that. But these ones, most time, we concentrate on either using consensus formula or the pattern. Next slide. Next slide. I will answer your question. So you can use pattern. The difference is that this one you use 4. 4 you multiply by the body surface, the weight and the TDSA. So you give half first 8 hours, then you have in the next 16 hours. And I told you can in the next 16 hours you can give 1/4. That is half of half. 8 hours, then another 1/4, 8 hours. So meaning that it will be half, 1/4, 1/4. You give half first 8 hours. Okay, then the remaining half you spread it over 16 hours. So we are going to do a calculation, but let me answer a question first. Where have you been? Where have your question?
Okay, when you say 4 years, is it elected drink assertion?
4 years, maybe I'm hearing you better. I'm not hearing you. Speak louder.
I'm asking if you say 4 meals times a kilogram of body weight, is 4 meals elected drink assertion?
You don't get to. You are English.
Is
that 4 meals?
Formula.
No, 4 milliliters.
4 meals.
Yes. Is it elected drink assertion?
Actually, it's because they put milk. Just choose the 4 is the major thing there. It's the number. Okay, because we are calculating the amount of ringers lactates that we need. Don't bother about it. Just take it. So let's do a calculation. Mr. G. Paul. That's another thing that someone reminded me.
Kanena kafurumia.
It's important to know that this time frame is calculated from the time at least the month I told you emergent phase start from the onset to the completion of fluid resuscitation. So when you want to replace fluid, you have asked, when did this thing happen? You know I told you there is a hospital in Nigeria. If you don't bring the patient within the first 8-12 hours, they say they don't take you in. So you will ask, when did this injury started? Do you understand? So that you will know that fluid shift has continued and started since yesterday or since 8 hours ago. You don't know how long it has passed. You've already passed. No, that's their own policy. Once you bring the patient to teaching hospital, they will start fluid replacement. They will use all this formula and start fluid replacement and continue monitoring. They will ask, when did it happen? Because there are other collaborative care. But they will definitely start fluid replacement. So let's do a simple calculation. I need to round up now. Mr. GPS. Jean-Pierre, a 35 years old, which job can we say is doing? Which job can we say is Jean-Pierre that is now sustained body? Is a what? Is a chapel